Let's look into this, an interesting and thought-provoking Reddit topic. It's fun and enlightening knowing each user's experience and perspective. A bit of a context for the story. The original poster is Theta Gang Throughway, and the user works for an investigating firm and does background research on the entrepreneurs. Theta is upset with how the world is currently operating and frustrated with the venture capitalist mentality and also how the young generation is taking advantage of the situation. Let me remind you, Theta is angry, and so the voice of the video is going to resemble it and also each user's experience and tone. We aim to bring life to text with audio and video. After all, what's the fun in watching in monotone? Before we start, make sure to subscribe. I will skim through the best ones and bring it to you on this channel. Stay subscribed. Stay blessed. Let's start.
I know it's the literal wet dream of a lot of people here, but the idea of ascending to wealth and power at a young age is pretty much impossible. From this, I exclude fields where a young body is pretty much a job requirement like actors, musicians, athletes, and other celebrities. However, to be young and rich requires either a rich family, an esoteric talent in a rapidly growing industry, and/or dumb luck. The first factor is by far the most common, and to become prodigiously successful, all three are needed. I work for an investigating firm, and so far our finding about the top entrepreneurs under 30 is that most of them are frauds. In fact, the only person we've cleared so far had a rich family that sent her to Oxford and started her business. On top of that, she really is a geneticist, and she managed to convince chump investors that her work with dog medicine would translate into anti-aging medicine with humans. But no, she just wanted to work with doggies all day and use her degree, which is fine. Another guy, however, has been repeatedly lying about his profits to trick venture capital funds to invest at high valuations. Another lady has no qualifications at all in the field in question and convinced venture capital to pay her boyfriend millions to do basic coding. The list goes on and on and on. The amount of dumb money is at an all-time high. The democratization of the stock market has led to high net worth people into exclusive and illiquid ventures that practice onanism to the idea of funding the next Bill Gates while he's still in college. You would assume this to be a metaphor. You would be incorrect. Yes, a pretty face does attract attention from investment bankers, angel investors, and rich chumps. That is the reality of young entrepreneurship: dumb money, foolhardy missions, excessive leverage, and crime. People whine about why all the elites of society are old men with rich parents. Isn't it obvious? Those guys have been working long hours for decades and hardly spend any of what they make, and they started out with a major advantage. The people you should worry about are people with delusions. The only way to get rich is through crime. Those guys consistently turn out to be guilty of the very thing they accuse others of. People further boast about the amount of upwards mobility in modern society, but I find no evidence this is true. For example, in medieval times, a noble simply owned land and provided some government service. In theory, there was nothing stopping anyone from becoming a noble except land and job skills were expensive and only a few rose or fell above the rank they were born in. The difference is back in those days people told their kids not to bother trying to climb the ladder, and these days parents encourage their kids to try to climb the ladder. I'm not saying you shouldn't try to be successful. I'm saying you shouldn't be fooled by those news stories of college graduates who seem to just get everything right. If all go according to plan, my company will be giving Mr. Steve Forbes himself a rude awakening. Be realistic about the odds of rising to the top and be honest with yourself about what you really need to be happy.
Theta stops the post here, and let's see now how other users responded with their opinions and experiences. Dornforprez says,
"It's not impossible, but it's very difficult. Kinda like the old saying, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Now, there are some important distinctions that need to be made as well. Straight out of college and into owning and growing, scaling a highly successful multi-department startup. Extremely rare, almost non-existent. Most people, particularly people at that age, simply aren't equipped with the broad array of skills, knowledge, and maturity required for such an endeavor, and frankly, college doesn't even do a very good job at teaching those things anyway. However, limited-scale small business startups, Those happen quite a bit, college or no college, and usually on shoestring budgets. Often these are existing hobbies, side gigs, etc., that turn into bona fide businesses, and the entrepreneur learns and matures as he goes.
Theta replies,
Well, there were the Microsoft founders who rose to the top mostly because they were born in the 1950s and thus were in college right when programmer became a profession. There's the firm I said I cleared who has wealthy founders and probably fibbed on what they intended to do with their products, but are definitely doing real veterinary research. They will most likely crash and burn as the odds of getting 2 specific drugs approved even for animals is low. But the reason we can name these exceptions is simply that they're the exceptions. But it's true for life in general is that the stuff you will do for fun for no pay is probably what you're better at than everyone else. Also, nothing that everyone does gets you success, like how the average pay of college grads fell across the decades because these days you're expected to attend college.
let's look at what Father Often has to say.
I look at my 5 failed attempts at building a successful business through my 20s and early 30s, and see how little I knew and how much I misunderstood. Now at 44, I feel young and know that I'm just getting started. We are doing very well and have surpassed many of the loftiest goals I set for my life back when I started. But now I know there is no limit other than the ones I set. We are building the generational wealth side of things currently, and never really see ourselves stopping that growth. It's been a 2-decade-long road with so many trials, obstacles, and some severe setbacks. You build self-discipline and mature over the years, and that is the greatest help at the end of the day. I agree, the chances of someone young 18, 30 jumping out there and building something of enough value to consistently stay in or above the 7-figure range is very elusive and rare. We started our current venture, commercial truck parts, manufacturing and sales, with $150 and absolute rock-bottom desperation. I believe that those circumstances, along with many other factors, were the key ingredients for what we have been able to achieve over the years.
Theta replies,
Just think. If you were 20 years younger, you could have pitched your business idea to some bankers and gotten a $10 million valuation overnight.
Father Often.
Right. I found out that banks did not want to lend me money until I no longer needed the money. Now they offer me anything.
Let's see what Warren Xmas said in defense of VC.
I think that's a little overly cynical of a view on dumb money in venture capital. Or I should say the VC funding is dumb by design. The ability to access large markets quickly enabled by the software revolution ensures that there are manifold opportunities for 100, 1,000x returns in the VC market on the order of years. Many will be busts, but the returns follow a power law curve, and landing just one in the 100s range can break against 99 failures. Further, it is basically impossible to pick a winner in the early stages regardless of due diligence. Even competent founders will face numerous competitors and market swings, ensuring that the odds are stacked highly against them. Hence, it can quickly become a superficial exercise to actually bet funds, and inevitably there will be plenty of founders who pass the low-pass filters we can then cherry-pick to make fun of. However, for the people with the capital to play the long odds, the proof is in the pudding of their hefty returns. Although this model is under threat as the capital applied to VC is starting to outstrip the viable return.
Theta replies,
Yes, but a lot of these angel investors will invest in 1 million people before they snag a winner by chance, with a significant portion of capital lost to crime. I must remind you that movie studios and venture capital firms recruit people in the exact same way, ergo the amount of investor money going into fools is prodigious. It's even arguable that all of venture capital is in a bubble, as there are tens of thousands of these firms, not including high net worth persons. That's so high that investment banks have OTC markets that function as unregulated stock exchanges, and the volume of innovative startups I've seen that somehow get funding is itself prodigious. And yes, I get how you're repeating Mr. Bogle's view of just by the whole market. But he was speaking of a highly regulated market dominated by profitable firms.
CSD Spartan 7 writes,
It's very possible to be successful by going to college, get a decent job, work hard at it. The grinder full entrepreneur with no skill other than sales may be, a bunch of frauds.
Theta replies.
These days, however, there's so much dumb money in venture capital that you don't even have to do all that. You just need the right connections and a pretty face. In fact, you can become the CEO the same way you can become a movie star.
Smurf Basin asks.
What about social media influencers? A lot of them make a ton of money in their 20s.
Theta replies.
So do OnlyFans, but both of those are described as bubbles. The YouTube bubble burst soon after YouTube was forced to become profitable. A fraction of 1% of all the above makes six figures or more, and the real disappointing thing is that a lot of college athletes actually dropped out because making videos on OnlyFans paid stupidly for a short time. It's like any other industry. As soon as everyone realizes there's a market for it, it gets flooded until it simply becomes just another job with normal expected profits.
Finally, my thoughts. Everyone sees the world from their own perspective, so everyone is right in their own opinion and glad to see diversity of thoughts for a given situation. But what are your thoughts? Would you agree with Theta, or is there a better alternative that should be explored? Let me know in comments. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe.